Hello everyone and welcome to a One Control Report video. This technically won't be a quick play, although it might be under the category on the website for now. This is going to be a bit more of an edited video, so it's not going to be as rambly, hopefully. So if you have any feedback on this, let me know. Let me know if this is of interest to you, or if you prefer more of the just like talking over the game kind of thing. But yeah, basically today I wanted to talk about Muscle March. This is a 2008 WiiWare game released by Bandai Namco, and if you're not familiar with what WiiWare was, basically it was the online digital download service for the Nintendo Wii. And this game has very much that like early 2000s, Japanese, I guess you could say like wacky style, very similar to like Katamari. It even has the same composer as Katamari. I mean, Bandai Namco was the one who did Katamari Damacy as well. So it's just really colorful and very strange overall. A lot of, strange visuals and things like that. And even down to the story itself. There's basically, you're a bunch of muscle men who get their protein powder stolen from them by a variety of characters. And essentially they have to chase after this person to try to, get their protein powder back. They're all just screaming like, no, thief! So it's kind of this really strange game, at least on its surface level. And apparently it was a arcade game that got canceled at some point, but they basically repurposed it for WiiWare. And I think that's going to be very obvious as you start looking at this game. Basically, the core format is that it's a game that lets you play between 3 different environments, and each of those environments have 3 stages to them. And essentially, while you're chasing after the protein powder thief, they're gonna flex and pose in certain ways, and then when they bust through the wall, it will leave like a imprint of them in the wall itself, and you got to match that pose to get through it. And the more of these poses you match in a row, the higher combo you get, and basically the higher score you have. Apparently the original arcade release that was canceled had it where you would essentially move the joysticks up and down to meet these different poses, but in the case of the WiiWare release, they basically do Wii Remote positioning. So you move the Wii Remote and nunchuck up and down on the left and right side to essentially get 4 different types of poses. Now, the one thing to keep in mind with this is, I'm a big fan of the Wii, but even I'll tell you that the Wii remotes are not particularly the most accurate thing all the time. And I'd say with a lot of Wii games, the motion controls are accurate like 95% of the time. And there's not really a question of responsiveness here. Like, if you get in a pose at the right time, even at like the last split second, the game seems to accept that and passes you. You don't have to necessarily, be very well prepared ahead of time with the pose. And the game definitely towards the latter half starts challenging you in ways where you'll have to make split second posing changes to get through walls. But, because it's so responsive, it's very easy to tell when something does, just kind of mess up. You'll get into a pose, but the Wii remote didn't read it quite right, so your character kind of like poses around a bit, trying to figure out exactly where you're actually posed, and then you'll sometimes smack into the wall. And because of that, it just kind of feels it feels a little bad, because it doesn't feel like it's your fault. It feels like it's just the game not being able to keep up with the Wii remote positioning, even if it is something like maybe you're just being too erratic with the Wii remote motions. The big thing with the Wii in general and the Wii remote is typically you need to figure out like what the game is looking for in terms of motion to make sure you're as accurate as possible. But in saying that though, for clearing the game itself, that 95+% accuracy is plenty enough to basically see everything within the game itself. Essentially each of these environments have a very steady build-up. So you have 3 stages, and the first stage is just like the warm-up stage. The second is kind of, I think it's called like the workout stage, quote, and the third stage is actually like the real challenge. And no matter which environment you choose, you always go through this progression. So it's not like 9 levels of challenge. It's like 3 levels of challenge spread across 3 different environments essentially. And so it is very easy to get, kind of get through all the content of the game itself. And for when it comes to, the game and its content, there's not a ton here, maybe expected for an arcade game. There's no real major challenges, and it's kind of expectedly shallow, I think, as an arcade game. There is a mode called Endless Mode, which is kind of where you can really get into the real challenge if you wanna kind of push the limits of the game. Essentially, you just go up this rainbow and pose, and as you go up the rainbow, every time you pose, you go 1 mile per hour faster, and your speed just builds up more and more and more until I assume there's eventually a point where either the game caps off or there's a part where you as the player can't actually pose fast enough realistically to get through. But maybe you can go forever. Who knows? It's called Endless Mode. And so yeah, that's kind of all you have in terms of content. It's pretty straightforward. But really, what you're getting here is the charm. There's a lot of detail here. It looks very cheap. But it's very cheap in the way that's very intentional. You have these little 2D sprites bouncing around and stuff. Very poorly animated characters. And admittedly, to some extent, WiiWare did not have a large file size that you could do. I think this is completely out of my brain, out of nowhere. I think it's like 40 megabytes or something ridiculously small. That could be wrong, but WiiWare games had to be tiny. So keeping stuff visually simple, I think not only would work for WiiWare, but also considering what this game's trying to do in terms of tone, it matches really well. I kind of wish there was like a free camera mode in this game that you can kind of look around, because while you're posing, there's so much going on in terms of having to make sure you're paying attention and flexing for the next wall. It can be hard to appreciate all the detail in the background and like how much work was put into all the characters kind of erratically moving around. And as I mentioned earlier, the composer for this game is the same composer of Katamari Damacy, so it sounds great. There's a great OST to this, and it doesn't seem like the soundtrack is really locked per stage. It just kind of randomly selects a song. So even if you are like stuck on a stage, you don't get stuck playing with the same song over and over again. It just basically changes over to the next song if you have to restart. And even though you're not like doing anything with the music per se, this game feels very rhythm game like in terms of the best way to play this game is kind of getting into the zone with the game and not thinking about how you're posing. It's all about just kind of reacting as soon as you can without having to think about how the character in front of you has just shaped their body essentially. There is like a variety of characters, and when it comes to actual gameplay, they're basically the same. They have different sound clips for when they pose, so you get different grunts and things like that. There is like character descriptions in the manual, and like I like that the guy from Spain is listed as a prince, but he says the prince of an unknown country. So I'm like, is that supposed to be the Prince of Spain, or is he just like has asylum in Spain? Who knows? I don't know. I'm sure there was zero thought put into it. If anything, that contradiction might be entirely intentional. I would not be surprised. So yeah. I will say that when it comes to like the muscle-bound stereotype in Japan, I don't really know enough about things like that. So if there's some sensitivity issues with this game, I'm not quite sure, and I'm not the person to really talk about that. So I personally didn't really find any real issue here, but what this game is very much what you see is what you get. So I think you can kind of suss out yourself if this is something you wanna spend your time with. But yeah, I mean, should you play it? I think it's a great game. I think it's really smart use of motion controls. Despite not really being designed for the Wii Remote and Nunchuck, I think it largely fits, and it adds a level of novelty to this that I think enhances the experience. You're not really doing the poses per se. That would be fun if you could do that, but from actually playing it as a Wii game, it makes a lot of sense of how they use the motion controls in this game. I find it pretty entertaining, and while it's short on content, there's replayability there. It has a scoring mode. I never got to the top level score, I only got to the second to top level, but it seems very doable to get a perfect score on a map. Whether you get anything for that, I don't think so. As far as I can tell, there's no real unlockable content in this game, but I didn't I maybe played this game for about 2 to 3 hours, but that's plenty of time. Maybe even less than that, maybe close to like an hour and a half. But that's plenty of time to kind of see everything this game has to offer. Unfortunately, you can't buy it anymore. If you're not aware, the WiiWare service is no longer available, so you can't go, the Wii Shop channel is not available, so you can't go purchase this game unless you're purchasing a Wii that already has Muscle March installed on it. Now, that being said, if you're not aware, the Wii is a very easy system to hack. And it's also, pretty easy to find what you need out there to get something like Muscle March up and running. So I wouldn't say, go and hack your Wii, just to play Muscle March. But if you are looking to, to explore the WiiWare library, in a post Wii Shop channel world, I would say definitely, keep your eyes out for this one. Go ahead and grab that off whatever site you got to grab it off if you need to. I was fortunate that I was aware that the WiiWare or the Wii Shop channel is shutting down and was able to pick it up ahead of time. But yeah, so if you hack your Wii, I'd say do it. But it's up to you. Anyways, thank you for coming. Like I said, a little bit of a different format here. We'll see if we end up sticking with this. But if you don't know the website, onecontrollerport.com is the website. I do weekly podcasts and weekly streams of various games, mostly of the Japanese variety. But I try to, kind of do a lot of different genres, a lot of different platforms. While the Wii is one of my favorite platforms, it's definitely probably not the focus actually right now. I'd say PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 seems to be getting like an unfair amount of attention lately on my channel. But anyways, but that's it for now. Thanks for watching. OneControllerPort.com is the website, and I hope you have a great week. Bye.